Should have been better for Liverpool.
Should have been better for Liverpool, indeed, as you can see on the faces of the Liverpool players. But for Spurs, this was such a big point for them to take away from Anfield. If we have a look at the standings, you'll see Liverpool there in 5th place on 49 points. As for Spurs, they are all the way in the bottom half of the standings, as we know. But it does give them at least a point of breathing space from Nottingham Forest and West Ham. All right, let's bring in our Frank Leboeuf on this one. But Craig, let me start with you. Big point for Spurs.
Big point. I mean, and look at the table there at the top. Brentford play tomorrow. They can go literally on the coattails of Chelsea and Liverpool. But this is probably giving Igor Tudor another game to go into the Nottingham Forest game after the Champions League game. They had a bit of spirit about them. They had a bit of fight. They created some chances. They had a bit of structure. He went to a back four. So, you know, and we were talking to Stevie about it, saying, you know, surely Liverpool are going to dismantle
Of course.
Tottenham.
So much so he took the day off.
Well,
Thankfully for all of us.
Thankfully, he took the day off.
well, I don't know if he saw the game because he was doing some stuff, and then he's going to some geriatric concert tonight where he's going to be the youngest one there. But that's true. Don't worry about it. But Liverpool, they're just not a very good side this year.
Yeah.
We saw them in the Community Shield. Frank and I were there. I think you did the studio. We saw them against Palace in the Community Shield. They lost. And we were like, there's work to be done here. There's work to be done with Kerke. There's work to be done with the back four. But we never felt, with all the players that they had signed and were still signing, you know, Alexander Isak, I don't think was there at the time. Ekitike looked sharp. We saw the first glimpse of Florian Wirtz. But we thought, it might take them half a dozen games to figure this out with all the new players. But we were all wrong. I was wrong. Still, to this point of the season, they are no better than they were that week before the Premier League season started. They still have the same issues. They still have the same sluggishness. They're still pedestrian. They're still defending poorly. All those facets of the game are still there. That's still haunting them. And that's why I think Galatasaray in midweek is huge. They're not a great side, particularly away from home. But Liverpool are not burying teams.
Yeah.
And Tottenham were there. They were so fragile, this Tottenham team. They haven't won in the league since before the start of the new year.
Yeah.
They lose to almost everybody. They've got a gazillion players out, including most of their big hitters. They're a bunch of youngsters on the bench, and yet this Liverpool team still sort of collapse against them. So well done to Tottenham. Big point, bearing in mind, Forest got a point. West Ham got a point. I think Leeds got a point as well. So they had to at least get something, and that was huge for them. But I think it just spells out how sort of average this Liverpool team are this season, if we're being honest about it.
Well, at one point it was a late show for Liverpool, but now it is a story of teams pulling off the late show against them. If you have a look at the stats, Liverpool have conceded 8 goals in the 90th minute or more in the Premier League this season. All have changed the result of the game. Only Leeds United actually conceding more late goals than Liverpool, and it's the club's most in a single campaign. Frank, as Craig said, this Spurs team looked so fragile. They really were there for the taking, especially with Liverpool at home. How did this happen?
Well, it's only because Liverpool lost everything in the skills that they had last season. You know, they were maybe lucky, they were maybe fortunate at some point, but they were trying stuff. But the most that they have is some players that they had the maturity, they had the experience, and it's like they lost it. I mean, the last 15 minutes, as Craig alluded, the game got crazy. Where you win, you are leading 1-0. You should, because of your experience, you know, slow down, you know, keep the ball, try to just go on counter-attack, and it's going to work. Because as he said again, they were Tottenham were very fragile. So why do you want to play that crazy game where you try everything to score the second goal? No, you know that at some point you will have chances with Salah, with Ekitike coming on, that would have been easy maybe to have more chances. But make sure you stabilize the defense. And I'm sorry, we have to name names. You know, when you have Gomez and Van Dijk as centre-backs, it should be easy to do that. And to say, well, guys, stop, what are we doing? We're not trying, we don't care about scoring a second goal. We have to make sure we keep the ball when we have to keep the ball and make sure, you know, we can create chances when we have the chance to, but don't force it, don't go crazy. That's why, you know, it happened. And yeah, they deserve to be punished in a way because they didn't work with their experience.
Shaka, you agree? Liverpool deserve to be punished?
Yeah, without question. And I think both Craig and Frank are right in that the last 15 minutes just became very open, very frantic. But let's be honest, 30 minutes of the first half before that, I thought Spurs was the better of the two teams. And now keep in mind, I thought Liverpool dominated the first 45, dominated maybe is a strong word, but with the better of the two teams, not difficult given what we've seen of Spurs so far this season. And probably deserving to be in at the break at the lead, albeit through the set piece, wonderfully taken by Soberslide. Could have been more, but for Vicario, who made one good save in that first half. And then in the second half, I thought Spurs were the only team that kind of looked like they wanted to score, or they needed to score. And this is just one goal. And it's only when Spurs scored, and I know it's an injury time, that all of a sudden Liverpool started passing the ball with pace, with intention. Before that, I thought generally they were just very pedestrian. They got a couple of opportunities because Spurs aren't very good, didn't make the most of those. And then, in truth, when Richarlison does find the back of the net, you think that's Spurs deserve that. Liverpool deserve that. So, you know, I think that's Liverpool to blame, whether you want to blame individuals on the park or whether you want to blame Arne Slot for just how pedestrian they were for all of that second half up until the game got away from them.
McAllister's one of them. You know, he's trying his best, but he's just not playing the same. Last year, he picked the ball up in midfield, he'd play it forward quickly. Now you watch him, he's picking the ball up, he's taking another touch, and Spurs were coming back in and nicking the ball off him. You know, he wasn't the only one, but he was very culpable, and he has been a lot of the season when he's been fit, about getting either playing a bad pass or getting caught in possession. When I'm skittling people over, I like to go for the big ones. And although Konate has been pretty dreadful this season, made a lot of mistakes, and Joe Gomez is sort of an in and out, he's a fill-in player. I have just not liked at all Virgil van Dijk this season, at all. I didn't like at the start of the season when he was throwing his arms up all over the shop, particularly at Milos Kerkez, who was a young lad coming in, he was struggling. And I think he's defended his penalty box from crosses this year. And I don't know if Frank can allude on this as a centre-half. Richarlison had 2 free headers in the first half and just missed a header from an Archie Gray cross in deep into the second half when it just went over his back post. And at least 2 of those times he pulled off Van Dijk. I honestly feel Virgil van Dijk, with his stature in the penalty area, has not either picked up his man and marked properly or has defended crosses, which is his job, along with his other centre-half partner. I think this has been his poorest season by far in positioning himself in the box for crosses coming in. And I think it's been way too easy for front players to pull off the back of him or get ahead of him. And we saw that on probably 2 or 3 occasions from Richarlison. A couple of them in the first half he could have scored. One in the second half it just glanced over the top of his head. And I think that starts the ball rolling when you're captain and your leader or supposed leader is having the kind of season he's had. I think it filters through the rest of the team, and I think it's filtered into the midfield. It's filtered into Mo Salah and the whole back line of Liverpool. And I think he leads this back line. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think his leadership in that back line this year, if we've been honest about it, it's been sorely lacking. Now, Frank, he's not the only one, but I just feel whenever the ball goes into the box, a decent cross, too often players are getting off the back of Van Dijk or getting ahead of Van Dijk, and it's usually somebody else that takes the blame, but I think he's been culpable for a lot of the poor defending this year.
I'm with you 100%, and I don't recognize the Van Dijk we have known with all the skills defensively, offensively. Remember the time, I think the first year in Liverpool, where it was so hard to take him on, that people were waiting for somebody capable of taking him on, so it was almost impossible. And now it seems to be easier. You can even fight. Well, Richarlison is a bull, and he loved that, and he showed today that he was capable of dealing with Van Dijk. But Van Dijk seems to be heavy, seems to not willing to defend properly, to follow his forward player and what he has to do, and the worst of the worst. And then when I know that the guy is not at his top, he starts complaining to the others, and he did once when I think Richarlison tried to, with his outside of the foot, to shoot, and Alisson saved it. But I saw him lifting his arms and complaining, where it was absolutely his fault. His fault, and that says a lot about the mindset of the player. You're not capable of dealing, so you're complaining to the others, and that's bad, very bad. Talking about McAllister, I really think that there is not a free kick. I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about it, because we're going to talk about somebody else, in Bundesliga after, maybe. But I really think that McAllister hits the players and creates the foul. So therefore, for me, there is no fouls from the defender, from the opponent. That's maybe another story, but I want to put it on to make sure the two guys in the studio will talk about it.
Well, Craig, in terms of Arne Slot, how much, of course we put some blame there on Virgil van Dijk, but Arne Slot and what he's done or not doing, how much blame does he take?
A lot. But he's got some fair amount. I mean, if they hadn't won the Premier League, and that's ifs, buts and maybes, and they did, the Premier League last year is kind of saving them at the moment, because they have been so mediocre all season. It's just... It's
you think he would have been gone before this?
I don't know, because traditionally Liverpool are not really a hiring and firing club. Like one or two. It's not Real Madrid, it's not Chelsea with Abramovich or Todd Bowley, the recent crew who've hired and fired. So they do tend to give managers a little bit more time and a bit more stability. But there's no doubt that the natives are restless, and there is no doubt that some of the money in the bank from the Premier League win is helping them. There's also no doubt he hasn't got the answers.
Yeah.
Now, what is the answers? Another 250 million in the summer? Is that the answer? Is it more spend, or is it something deeper than that? I don't have the answer. I mean, Mo Salah came on, he was relatively lively, but he's had a poor season. We've just talked about Van Dijk. They're two of the stalwarts who are in their 30s now.
Yeah.
So are the chances of them playing better next season or being as bad or worse? I think it's the latter. So there's a lot of issues to be answered. But to go back to the Van Dijk throwing his arms, he sort of does it, and he has been doing it every time. Did you used to do that?
No.
When people made mistakes, throw their arms up in the air?
I didn't throw my arms up. I didn't throw my arms up when the ball was coming my way.
So it was you making the mistakes.
Why would I waste my time
representing
with other people? But to your question, Alexis, and I'll Craig's right. I think the Premier League win last season is what is keeping Arne Slot in the job. And I get your point that Liverpool aren't a hiring and firing club. But let's just say hypothetically, Jurgen Klopp was in charge up until the end of last season. And then Arne Slot comes in, spends close to $500 million or whatever it is Liverpool spends. And you see that performance today. I don't think Arne Slot is still the manager, even though that is not who Liverpool are as a football club. So yes, nothing happens in a vacuum. I think that Premier League win is certainly what's keeping Arne Slot in the job right now, and things need to turn around to start next season. Performances as a team need to be better. All that being said, while we could point the finger at Arne Slot an awful lot, you look at the players in the park, and I do not think there is a single player, bar Szoboszlai, who is living up to any kind of expectation. Not the old players from last season who won the title, not any of the new signings. I know some of them are injured, but nobody really is living up to expectation. Maybe I'll take Hugo Ekitike out that picture as well. But other than that, everybody has an awful lot to answer for.
Well, let's not forget, Shaq, their hard graft in the Premier League was done in the first 60% of last season. Because at the end of it, they won the Premier League, but it tailed off for them. They went out the FA Cup at Plymouth, and he made a lot of changes, got it wrong. They went out the Champions League, can't remember how it all unfolded. They went out the FA Cup. PSG. They went out of all it was all the quadruple talk. And then it all came crashing down. Yes, they won the Premier League, I know that. But that work was done at the start, and then it filtered off as did the challenge. So it's been not bad, but it's been kind of rotting.
What if I told you the most dangerous thing about Liverpool right now is not a lack of talent? It's that this team keeps finding new ways to let winning positions slip away. Yeah, Reds, that 1-1 draw with Tottenham hurts, and it hurts even more because it felt so avoidable. Anfield saw Dominic Szoboszlai fire Liverpool ahead with a first-half free kick, but Richarlison's 90th minute equalizer stole 2 massive points and left the Reds outside the top 4 race they were desperate to re-enter. Reuters reported it was Liverpool's 15th league goal conceded after the 75th minute this season, and that stat alone tells you why fans are furious. Welcome back, Reds, and let's be honest here. This was not just one of those days. No. This was a warning shot. Again. Liverpool had the lead, had the crowd, had the moment, and still could not kill the game. Arne Slot admitted afterward that his side were not clinical enough, and once again paid for defensive lapses late on. And that's exactly why the debate exploded straight after the whistle, because this isn't just about one draw, it's about a pattern. The Guardian and official post-match reaction both point to the same thing. Liverpool are dropping crucial points in matches they should be managing far better. And then you hear the pundits. Ooh, and this is where the fire starts. The ESPN panel basically asked the question nobody wants to hear out loud. Should Liverpool have moved on from Slot earlier? Harsh? Maybe, but the fact that the question is even being asked shows how badly the confidence around this team has slipped. They talked about poor game management, and honestly, that criticism is fair. Liverpool went ahead, but never made the game feel dead, never made Tottenham feel hopeless. Instead, the match stayed alive, and when you leave the door open in the Premier League, somebody usually walks through it. Now here's the part that really stings. Tottenham came into Anfield in a mess. They were in terrible form, just above the relegation zone, short on confidence, and still managed to take something from Liverpool's home ground. Igor Tudor called it something big for Spurs, and that tells you how massive a missed opportunity this was for the Reds. Liverpool should have crushed that hope early, shut the game down, and walked away with 3 points. Instead, more tension, more dropped points, more noise. But here's why I'm still not throwing this team overboard, not even close. Because even in this frustrating moment, there are signs Liverpool can still respond. Szoboszlai stepped up with quality. Young players like Rio Ngumaho earned praise in match reaction. And most importantly, the season is not dead, not even remotely. Liverpool are still right in the middle of the fight for Champions League football, and one strong run can flip the mood instantly. Even after this draw, the message from within the squad was clear. Wake up now or the standards slip too far. That urgency can be a weapon if the players respond the right way. So yeah, Reds, this result was painful. Whew, no point pretending otherwise. But football seasons are defined by response, not just setbacks. If Liverpool turn this anger into intensity, if they stop gifting late moments, if they start managing games with authority, this draw can become the slap in the face that wakes the whole squad up. And maybe, just maybe, that becomes the turning point instead of the collapse. Now I want to hear from you. Was this just another frustrating draw or a real red flag for Arne Slot and this Liverpool side? Drop your thoughts below, smash the like button, and subscribe for more Liverpool news, reactions, and real fan passion. YNWA.